sir.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good. Srivastava is there?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
Srivastava? Hello?
Hello, good morning, sirs.
Good morning, Srivastava. Manivannan is ready? Srivastava?
Yes, sir. I am ready, sir.
Yeah, Manivannan is okay, right. Pankaj, today chief guest is there, Ankit Sahu.
Sir, already yesterday we had discussion. So he told I will join and I have given the link to him.
Okay. Today morning also I spoke with him. He's ready to join.
Okay, sir. Just talking.
Now he is there in the. Check the list. If the sir is there, then we will start the program.
Okay, sir.
Good morning, Srivastava.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So participants are joining. So
Morning, sir.
very soon we will start.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Ankit Sahu, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sir,
It's
yes.
audible.
see you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Pankaj?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shall we start?
Yes, sir. Now we are ready.
Okay. So,
Can I start sharing, or you will go ahead with some introduction, and then I will be able
yeah,
to.
Sahu introduction is there.
Okay.
So after formal discussion about the program, then later they introduce you. After that, you start the.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Sure, sir.
So can we start with the introduction program, sir? Samaya, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Manivannan, are you here?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So you please start with your inaugural.
Okay,
Then
sir.
later people may join after
Okay.
even while the program is going on. The participant may join. 63 is there as of now.
As of now, it is 63.
Yes.
So better to go with the time schedule. So yeah. So Manivan, you please start.
A very good morning to all the dignitaries, guests, and beloved faculty members. With great joy and immense exultation,
Minute. 1
it
minute.
gives me.
Yeah, Mahesh sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead, Nana. Manivan.
Good.
Yeah.
It gives me great pleasure to extend to you a very warm welcome on behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, SR Engineering College, Warangal, for the 5 days faculty development program on 3D printing and design for academicians and entrepreneurs. In fact, this is an incredible program that bestows awareness by the expertised guests on 3D printing developments and entrepreneurship opportunities and challenges. And it's a great pleasure to begin this program on International Yoga Day. It's our holy tradition to worship Lord Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, and Lord Ganesh, well known as remover of obstacles, before any important event. So I take the privilege for dedicating prayers to Ma Saraswati and Lord Ganesh on behalf of everyone. I request everyone to close the eyes while chanting the slokas and pray for the successful accomplishment of this program. Please, sir. Om गणानान्त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पद आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा पूजिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा. Thank you, everyone. Without any delay, let's begin the inaugural session of this incredible program. I cordially invite coordinator for this faculty development program, Dr. Pankaj Kumar sir, to introduce the event.
You are in mute, sir. Pankaj, sir.
Hello, Pankaj.
So respected Mr. Ankit Sahu, chief guest for today's inaugural session, Professor V. Mahesh, Principal of Engineering College, SR Engineering College, Professor P. Samaya, Head of Department, Mechanical Engineering, Dr. Jay Prakash Srivastav, Co-Coordinator of this FDP, dear colleagues and my dear participants, good morning and warm welcome to all of you in this inaugural program of 5 days online FDP on 3D printing and design for academician and entrepreneur. The idea of conducting this program is to create awareness in the cutting edge of the technology of the 3D printing and design. Coming to these 5 days program, each day session scheduled according to particular themes, such as day 1 and day 2 scheduled for basics of 3D printing and design, day 3 for 3D printing for entrepreneur, Day 4 for biomedical application of 3D printing technology, and day 5 for 3D printing technology used in defense and aerospace industries. I am sure this FDP fulfill the objectives of Department of Mechanical Engineering and Center for Materials and Manufacturing, and bring faculty, research scholar, and entrepreneur to come to a common platform to encourage and share knowledge of 3D printing technology. So thank you one and all for joining in this FDP.
Thank you, sir. Now I respectfully invite Principal SR Engineering College, Dr. V. Mahesh sir, to address the session.
Yeah, thank you, Manivandan. Honorable Chief Guest of today's program, Mr. Ankit Sahu, co-founder and director of Objectify Technologies Private Limited, delegates and faculty members from various institutions. It gives me immense pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of SR Engineering College to this 5-day faculty development program. 3D printing is widely claimed to have revolutionized not only the manufacturing industry, but also many other walks of life, like medicine, aerospace, and automotive industry. So 3D printing is a disruptive technology, changing the fundamental dynamics of manufacturing. So given the kind of impact 3D printing has on the manufacturing industry, it is imperative to build skills on this transformative technology. So to create its awareness among the faculty, a 5-day faculty development program on 3D printing and design for academicians and entrepreneurs was proposed by SR Engineering College. We thank AICT Training and Learning Academy, Achal Academy, for sponsoring this program. I would like to congratulate the coordinators of this program, Dr. Pankaj Kumar and Dr. Jay Prakash Srivatsav and Dr. P. Samaya, Head of Mechanical Engineering Department, for their meticulous planning in organizing the event and in identifying the eminent resource persons from industry and academia. I would like to take this opportunity to brief all the participants about SR Engineering College. With over 18 years of academic excellence, the well-established SR Engineering College has created a sustainable innovative ecosystem and attained All India first rank among the private colleges in Atal ranking of institutions on innovation achievements, which is ARIA 2020, an initiative by Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. The institute has also achieved 160th rank in NIRF MHRD All India level rankings in engineering category, and is positioned in the rank band of 151 to 200 in the overall category across India. SR Engineering College offers a diverse set of programs in line with its core values, which are innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, with emphasis on interdisciplinary education. SR Innovation Exchange, a technology business incubator sponsored by DSD, and other centers at SR Engineering College, namely Nest for Entrepreneurship in Science and Technology, Center for Design, Center for Creative Cognition, Collaboratory for Social Innovation, and many other multidisciplinary centers have aided in bringing student innovators, entrepreneurs, mentors, researchers, and academicians together to create an inspiring ecosystem to transform ideas into actions. SR Innovation Exchange was recognized for effective practices of incubation center in 16th World Education Summit held in Hyderabad in the year 2020. The efforts made by the faculty and students in these centers ensured more than 50 patents and 2,000 research articles. Success also encompasses 52 sponsored research projects and programs by funding agencies like DST, AICT, UGC, and others. The institute is also recognized as Scientific and Industrial Research Organization by Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. The collaboration with foreign universities like Purdue University, UMass Lowell, University of Missouri in USA, Cranfield University from UK, and Deakin University in Australia also played a significant role in developing and implementing the innovative curriculum. To be industry relevant, we have introduced several new courses, professional tracks, workshops of practice, and internship opportunities in collaboration with the industry. All these efforts resulted in obtaining Tier 1 accreditation for all the BTech programs by National Board of Accreditation and A-grade accreditation status by National Assessment and Accreditation Council, NAC. So equipped with the right collaborations, SR Engineering College is emerging as a learning center for intelligent technologies and innovation. The collaboration with Microsoft, Saint, and other technology-driven industries will enhance the employability opportunity of students by upskilling their talent. I hope the deliberations from various distinguished speakers will definitely benefit the participants to update their knowledge in 3D printing and design. And I extend my best wishes for the great success of this faculty development program. Thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Then I request Honorable Head of the Mechanical Department, Dr. P. Samaya, sir, to address the session.
Thank you, Manivannan. First of all, I would like to thank Ankit Sahu. In spite of his busy schedule, since in the beginning, we traveled a lot to get into this program. I think is a very useful for the participants as well as for the Department of Mechanical Engineering also, really. Thanks, Sahu. And also, I would like to thank my management for great support to organize this program. And also my continuous support. Without this support is we are unable to run this program. And for our department also, Dr. Mahesh, principal, behind this program is there always. And also my coordinators, Dr. Pankaj Kumar and Dr. Srivastava for their really continuous support. I know their efforts since beginning. They're really how much time they spend on the program to get into all the people into this program, really. I appreciate them really, and also really thanks for their effort. And also my dear faculty members, their continuous support, whenever their support is required, they involved in the program. Then my deans, fellow heads and faculty, and my dear participants. A very good morning to all and warm welcome to the today program. First of all, we also thanks to AICT for sanctioned the 3D printing and design for academician entrepreneurship program for the benefit of the researchers as well as the entrepreneurs. Regarding the department, the department initiated in 2004. Since beginning, we have a good strength. The faculty is the good strength, and the student is also actively participated in the program or in the department. This department is initiated in 2004. So from the beginning, we mainly focused on the research and academics parallelly. And this program is accredited by MBA. And also, with the involvement of our students and our faculty members, the department is till now more than 20 patents are filed. It's a very good, and one patent, as our principal sir said, is a commercialized one patent on his own. Even in spite of a busy schedule, as a principal, is also involved in the research activities continuously to encourage the students and also motivate the faculty in the department. So we more than 20 patents filed in the department, and research publications are more than 500 publications are there in the department, really, since the beginning. So, and also there are many number of faculty members having sponsored research programs, sponsored research projects in the department, DST, as well as the UGC minor project sanctioned. Our faculty members are enough strength to handle these projects. And also we have a UG program, one mechanical engineering, and also we offered specialization in mechanical engineering in robotics and automation, robotics and artificial intelligence, and 3D printing. So we are given a major focus or interest we are mainly focused on these areas, these three areas: robotics and automation, robotics and artificial intelligence, and 3D printing, in addition to mechanical engineering. And also one PG program is there in our department, is the advanced manufacturing system. Mainly recently, in the last academic year, we modified completely in terms of additive manufacturing. There are additive manufacturing lab is set up or established in the department on behalf of the PG program, advanced manufacturing system. We also introduced big data analytics programs and machine learning and IoT. These courses also introduced in the like industry 4.0. So these courses are introduced in our PG program. And in fact, many people are utilized our resources. And also we offered PG program in the department. Now, to strengthen the department, we also initiated, there are 4 different clubs. That is the Robo Club and SAE Club, Society of Automotive Engineers, and the Design Club and the Renewable Energy Club. On these clubs, we encourage the faculty as well as the student to show their excellence in the upcoming issues or critical issues in the different areas. Our faculty and students are actively involved in these clubs to solve their issues, some of the issues. And another is we started 3 years back, Center for Materials and Manufacturing. This is the exclusively the mentor from IIT Hyderabad and IIT Roorkee, and another mentor from NIT Warangal. So these actively involved in our Center for Materials and Manufacturing. Every time they are given their valuable inputs to strengthen the program in the Center for Materials and Manufacturing, as well as because we have iScholars are introduced. iScholars are because some of the interested students, they may join in the center, and that entire year or 1 year or 2 years continuously touch with the center, and they execute their program or continue for the continuity of their research activities. And these mentors may involve, and we and these coordinators also involved in the center to strengthen the programs. And also our program is really thanks to science industry. There we have a collaboration with the science industry for this program. And they are given even Ataur Rahman. Earlier he was in science industry. He is supported a lot to strengthen this program. And now we expect same thing from Ankit Sahu in the future programs also, definitely. And once again, I congratulate my coordinators, Dr. Pankaj Kumar and Srivastava, for their continuous effort. So since the beginning of this program, really. Once again, I welcome to all the participants. Please utilize the resources, because these programs, whatever this 5 days program, they are exclusively covered from all the useful applications. So bio, defense, there are many applications which is useful to carry forward your research in the future. So I hope that everybody utilize these opportunities, these upcoming events. So there are good speakers are there in the program from IITs, from academics and from industry also. So once again, I thank you all for the participant. And I request all of you utilize the resources in the program. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. I am profusely overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce our chief guest of this session. He is none other than Mr. Ankit Sahu, Director, Objectify Technologies Private Limited. Mr. Ankit Sahu has pursued his Bachelor of Engineering in the stream of Mechanical in 2010 from RV College of Engineering, Bangalore, and he did his Master of Science in Manufacturing Technology Engineering from Warwick University, UK. He founded Objectify Technologies right from returning from UK in 2013 at SIIC Incubation Center at IIT Kanpur. He has avid knowledge on additive manufacturing and seeks to take Objectify Technologies as not only a manufacturing service bureau, but as a thought leader for the future of manufacturing. Now I consider it a great honor to welcome and invite Mr. Ankit Sahu to give his inaugural talk.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting me uh, uh, for this. I just wanted to check, can I start sharing my screen for the talk?
Yeah, Mr. Sahu, you have been made as a co-host, so you can share your screen easily.
Sure. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, this is fine.
Just hold on. Can you see everything is visible? Is it moving properly?
Yes, exactly visible.
Okay.
Smooth
Okay.
slide.
All right. So my name is Ankit Sahu. I am the co-founder and director of Objectify Technologies. Thank you for inviting me for this talk, and it is my great pleasure to always talk to academician and talk to the young uh, people who want to teach and who want to learn also. So that is, learning should never stop. And thank you so much, sir, Sidramaya sir, for inviting me. And I really thank Athar Rahman for giving me this opportunity to talk to you for this activity. I just wanted to tell you that today is my birthday also. So uh, just I'm just talking to you guys from with my wife and daughter on a holiday.
So on this special day, we all wish you a very, very happy birthday, sir.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
happy birthday, Sahu.
Thank you,
Happy
sir.
birthday, Sahu sir.
Thank you. So today it is my great pleasure to talk to you about metal additive manufacturing and the Indian scenario, which is very critical. And currently, a lot of industries in the country, a lot of government or initiatives such as Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India are pushing the adoption of the technology itself. So it is a great great tipping point we are sitting at to introduce these technologies in a academic environment, because today's learners are tomorrow's enablers. So that is what I believe, and that is what I think the country like India should believe in. And we have to be like equipped, becoming like an enabler. So I would like to pass on as much as I know about the technology and out of our experience in additive manufacturing. So uh, let me start with talking on Objectify Technologies. So we started Objectify Technologies in 2013 at SIDBI Innovation Incubation Center at IIT Kanpur. Currently, Objectify Technologies is one of the largest additive manufacturing service bureau in India. If you take an account of South Asia and the Middle East region, so we will still be one of the largest additive manufacturing centers. And currently, we uh, introduce ourselves as a additive manufacturing engineering service provider. It is not just the rapid prototyping or just manufacturing of the components through additive manufacturing, but also work on the engineering side of the activity, trying to make complex designs, trying to work on complex new materials. So that is the uh, prime motivation for us. And having said that, we have been serving more than 7 different verticals, such as aerospace, space, automotive, oil and gas, dye and mold, and medical, uh, for which we have been doing rapid prototyping, conformer cooling design for additive manufacturing, and consulting for facility setups also. So we have been working with a lot of government organizations for them to introduce the additive manufacturing technologies. Currently, we are working on the same model with Indian Air Force at Nasik, where we are helping them to set up the additive manufacturing center, where they will be developing indigenized components. And our primary motivation is on the part quality and the sustainability. And this is our journey. This is me. Back in 2013, with a small maker bot, we started in IIT Kanpur. So this is our first print. So when you get a printer, you want to play it with it. So we started making a Taj Mahal. Then this was our first order. It was a quadcopter bracing component, and we started our journey from here. Currently, this is the current scenario. So this is our Noida plant. So we have two operating factories, one in eastern part of Delhi, which has all the polymer services, and on in Noida, which is currently showcased, it has all the metal additive manufacturing centers. So these are like some of the projects what we have done currently, such as impellers, connecting rods, and blades. So different kind of interesting projects which we have gone through, and it has been a great learning for us. We are a AS9100 Rev D certified agency, which is an aerospace QMS, quality management system certification on manufacture of metallic parts and sub-assemblies by 3D printing and provision of related engineering services. So, so we can do a lot of new developments and a lot of new parts under this certification from AS9100. These are some of our customers. So so you can see the mix of the customers, and you can also see the variety of the customers with certain names which are like national super brands currently. So we serve from oil and gas to aerospace to automotive to white goods to engineering and electrical goods companies. Currently, we serve for more than 650 plus customers all across India and globally. So globally, we export to countries like Singapore, Israel, Middle East, Europe, and America. So we have been working with these companies for their additive manufacturing journey, and we can proudly say that we have qualified some of the components for the Gaganyaan with ISRO, which is in production, and it is a qualified component, and it will be first 3D printed component on a manned mission for ISRO. So that is a great pride we take in. So these are like certain offerings what we have. On we can divide our offerings into four different heads, such as additive manufacturing, design consultancy, facility and capability setup, and the product validation. So in additive manufacturing, we are one of the unique uh, service provider who has metal and polymer. Uh, and in this on the metal side, we work on direct metal laser sintering, conformer cooling, hybrid manufacturing, and CNC machining. On the polymer side, we work with stereolithography, the SLA process, selective laser sintering, the SLS process, the vacuum casting. On the design consultancy side, we work with our customer for design for additive manufacturing, data preparation as a service. So we supply a lot of key results to be done with European and the American customers, where we prepare the data for them, and they can just go and plug and play their printers, and they can execute the programs. Then we work on a lot of new material developments. We also do reverse engineering in-house, um, and conformer cooling facility in on the facility and capability setup. We work with our customer on a boot model, which is build, own, operate, and transfer model, where somebody like Liquid Propulsion Space Center at Trivandrum we are working with currently, and Indian Air Force in Nasik we are working, where we have bought a machine, and we will be setting up the machine in the centers itself, and we will be operating for next 3 years for these customers, and the operations will be totally done by the Objectify team. The only responsibility for the end customer is on providing the right work for the team. We also do expertise consulting, and we take up in-house contract work. Like if you have certain proven component in additive manufacturing and you just want to produce it, we can support you for a production level engagement. On the other side, we help on the product validation, where we do product trials, material testing and development. So a lot of like testing requirement in the fatigue side or in the creep side or any kind of flame retardancy. We support our customers with that. And we also want to have a sustainable growth on in terms of the environment. So we also work with our customers in understanding the life cycle of the component which they are trying to produce through additive, because currently most of the bigger OEMs worldwide, they are much more cautious now on the environmental impact of any new development. So they try to do a lot of assessment throughout the process, if because they will be able to change the process through additive manufacturing, and that's how they try to work on life cycle assessment of the components. So this is the current setup what we have. So there have been a couple of addition as we speak. Uh, uh, so on the metal side, we have the EOS M400-4, which is one of the largest and the one of the fastest machines in laser powder bed fusion currently available in the country, which has a bed size of 400 by 400 by 400. Then we have couple of EOS M290s, which has a bed size of 250 by 250 by 300. Then we have an older version of M290s, which is a EOS M280. We also have our post-processing centers, such as a hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Do you have any question?
So, dear participant, I request if you have any queries, you post in the chat box. Otherwise, in the last, we will give the chance to ask the questions. Sir, you carry on. Ankit, sir.
Yes, yes. Sure. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. And we can do it post the presentation, and we can discuss it at a stretch itself. So I just want to continue from where I left. So I was telling you about our post-processing, because after 3D printing, we require a lot of machining activity to be done, because you get a cast level component out of additive manufacturing and you need to tolerance it. The GD&T has to be performed. So we use our 5-axis continuous Mazak Vari-axis J series machine, and we also have a BFW Agni Plus, which is a vertical milling center. We also do our in-house heat treatments, where we have a muffle furnace which can go up to 1300 degrees centigrade in inert environments in nitrogen and argon itself. So, but otherwise, if you require any kind of vacuum heat treatment, we have partners in and around Delhi itself who support us with these certifications. So our heat treatment, our process itself has been certified by Indian Space Research Organization, and customers like Boeing, Airbus, Flowserve. So they have also certified our processes for production level activities with for additive manufacturing. On the polymer side, which is based in Delhi currently, we have instead of one ESP 396, currently we have in-house 2 ESP 396. So I think last week it landed in India, and on Saturday it became operational for the first time. The second ESP 396, and ESP 110, we have a smaller and a faster machine. Then on the SLA side, we have EP A650, which is a shining 3D 650 by 600 by 400 stereolithography equipment. Then we have a 3D system Project 6000 HD, which is 250 by 250 by 250 bed size stereolithography. We also do the in-house CMM from Hexagon Metrology. Then as we are invested totally also on the equipment, we are very well invested on the software side, and our team is totally ready, uh, equipped to work on any kind of designs on the CAD CAD side, on the CAE side, or any kind of topology optimization, generative designs through these packages from Rhinoceros, SolidWorks, Simufact, Materialize, NetFab, and MSC1. We also do simulation for conformer cooling in injection molding inserts, and we serve a lot of tool and die manufacturers in the country through Moldex 3D, where we simulate the tools before actually producing the component itself from it. So I'm just going to start with a great example of metal additive manufacturing. So till now I had been able to talk about the company itself. Now we will be mostly talking about the application, the working, and how to actually funnel your know-how in additive manufacturing itself. So I'm just taking a example of a jet engine, which is one of the most complex geometries in any kind of manufacturing environment, and this has been a great success not only in India with companies like HAL and Siemens we work with, but companies like Rolls-Royce, MTU Engines, GE, and Pratt and Whitney, they have been producing a lot of components through additive manufacturing, trying to reduce the lead times and also trying to reduce the sub assemblies, because a jet engine has more than 16,000 components in a bomb. So if you are able to club and manufacture some of the components together, then you will not be only saving in the bomb number of components in the bomb, but also saving a lot in managing the supply chain itself. So that's how people around the globe are taking additive manufacturing really seriously for at least jet engine manufacturing. So I will be giving a small example of what all activities Objectify has already done on a jet engine. So we have manufactured a flame tube, which is a flamethrower in a jet engine itself. This was done for Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. So this is a 560 flame tube. It has a wall thickness varying from 0.8 to almost 2.8 and it is a 560 in diameter, and we had made this. It is a great example of not just only 3D printing but also on a project management level, because in this it is not only about the 3D printing of it, we also got it welded. So this was produced in 5 sectors of 4 of 80 degrees and one of 40 degrees, and then it was laser welded, and it has been functional at HAL for almost 2.5 years now. It was done in Inconel 625, and additive manufacturing reduced the lead time. Earlier, it was produced through sheet metal, so a lot of brazing, a lot of welding was required, and still the functionality uh, or taking in an account for this was a bit difficult. So that's how additive manufacturing was able to serve this, and it has been a continuous production order for us. Then you can do a lot of casing. So we actually work on a lot of gearbox casings, and we work on a lot of engine casings in ALSI 10MG for the jet engines. Then we work on blades such as low pressure turbine blades, high pressure turbine blades, then the compressor side blades. Also, we have been able to produce through additive manufacturing, both in titanium 6Al4V and in Inconel for high temperature applications. Then we also work on injection molding inserts for hand rest kind of an activity. So this was done for Collins Aerospace to increase the productivity of the components to be produced. So So these are like some of the material examples, how to select a material for your end application. So if you have a high wear resistance application like tooling, so you can select Maragin steel, which is available at 1.2709 grade, H13 grade, which is like a DIN number. So you can select according to the material libraries if you are interested in working on certain of these alloys. Then a biocompatible component material are such as titanium, which comes commonly in titanium 6Al4V, and cobalt chrome, which is a very good application is in the dental side of the things. Then mostly we also work on stainless steel. So for a lot of plate manufacturings, for nut and bolts, uh, for any kind of implants to be done. Then high temperatures, you can work on different kind of titanium superalloys, nickel superalloys, and cobalt chrome superalloys. Then strength to weight ratio, titanium alloys you can choose. On castable grades where casting is very much required and the flowability is of concern, you can use ALSI 10mg. Then sheet metal prototypes, you can have different kind of steel alloys. Then high strength steels, you can have different pH alloys, which are like precipitated hardened steels such as 15-5 pH and 17-4 pH. We have recently developed a copper alloy, which is a CuCrZr, and we have also developed a thruster in it, and it is under trials with ISRO. And so copper is something like of a niche currently, because the world is moving towards electrification of any kind of mobility. So copper will be a great material for the future. So we have developed certain new alloys in copper which can give us electric conductivity and thermal conductivity close to 90-95% itself. So it is a great alloy to work with. Then we have also developed corrosion resistant alloys such as Corex. So it has a higher chromium content into it. So we work on these kind of alloys. So let me also start with how to select uh, a new material for additive manufacturing on the uh, laser powder bed side. So people know that a powder is required for additive manufacturing, but they don't know how to select a powder. And it is the data on the internet and everywhere, it is quite difficult to actually gauge, because there are different powder suppliers for different kind of applications. But for exactly for metal additive manufacturing, you have to have certain criteria to qualify a certain alloys itself. So the material should, if you are trying to choose a new development alloy, then it should have a good weldability, good castability. So it should be a weldable alloy, it should be a castable alloy, it should be, it should not be susceptible for hot cracking. That is very much required because it is a kind of a welding process, additive manufacturing. It should have a higher absorption to the laser. So the lambda should be higher than 1070 nanometer. uh, the typical powder characterization characteristic should be, it should be good in flowability, the packing density should be really high, the morphology, the shape of the powder should be spherical, the particle size distribution should be between 20 to 63 micron, depending on the alloys itself, depending on their processability. You can have a range from 15 to 45 or 20 to 63. It depends, it is a subjective issue, we can discuss it later. Then the other important part is the impurities. So the pre-alloyed chemical composition should have lower HON, which is hydrogen, oxygen, and the nitrogen should be as low as possible. Then the production methodology for producing these powders should be mostly through atomization in the inert environment. So currently people are trying different ways also to produce powders just to reduce the cost of the powder itself. So it is under trials, but generally it is atomized at inert level, inert gaseous level. Then the recyclability um, should be really high. You can sieve and reuse the powder, and there should be no degradation when you're using it continuously and remixing it. So these are like certain criterias which you should take care when you are going further for any new material development or purchasing a new powder for your application, or you're trying to convince a customer or your team what to have as a qualifying characteristics of a powder itself. So if any one of you want to screenshot this, you can use it as a screenshot for your future references. It is a very helpful cheat code for you also on trying to work on specifics of a powder, which is currently the norm. So I'll take two examples, one in titanium, which is on a technology readiness level 9. It is proven, it is a proven material in aerospace division, and it is like in production for most of the end user and end customers itself. Uh, so currently, typical alloys which are available are like titanium, commercial titanium, and titanium 6Al4V, which is grade 5, and you have a ELI grade, which is grade 23. Um, so you can process titanium in three different technologies in additive manufacturing. One is laser based powder bed fusion, other one is electron beam based powder bed fusion, binder jet uh, process. Then you would be requiring post processing such as heat treatment and hot isostatic pressing. um, the processing challenges are like it has higher thermal residual stress. So if you take out a titanium component out of a print, it might have a buckling kind of an effect. So just because of the thermal stresses, it might get snapped in a certain time period itself if you are not heat treating it or stress leaving it properly. The structural characteristics are like it is the density of titanium is more than always 99.5%. It has a very laminar microstructural microstructure. So you can see in this the mechanical properties, it is always better than the conventional because laser powder bed fusion creates that relative density more than 99.5%. So the conventional properties of titanium 6L4V is lower than the additively manufactured. So when people ask you that is additive manufacturing good enough for uh, a structural example, so you can always quote this that it has better properties. So additive manufacturing mostly has, if you want to scale it in different processes, you can scale it between forging and casting. So it sits between. So the mechanical properties are better than casting but lower than the forging, and the creep properties and the fatigue properties are also in that range. So whenever you are selecting a process, you can also keep this in mind, and then try to work upon choosing a process itself. Then the fatigue properties are lower uh, because it is a layer by layer process. It is a fast cooling and fast heating kind of a process, fast melting kind of a process. So fatigue properties are a bit lower than before. Then as I told you, this is a good example. We What I just wanted to do here is like we're trying to make you understand on a technology readiness level which is good enough for production, then a material which is currently people are trying to work upon this, and as I've told you, copper is one of them. So it sits very sweetly in the middle of the technology readiness level at 5, which is it is relevant for certain applications currently. And you can work on alloys like pure copper, copper chromium zirconium. Currently we are working on GR-Corp 84, GR-Corp 42, and different more alloys in copper side. mostly for the space and the e-mobility space. We have been working for. We are trying to produce it in laser-based powder bed fusion. The post-processing requirement are mostly heat treatment, followed by water quenching. The processing challenges are it has a lower absorption. So, but I told you in before itself that you should have a higher absorption, but in copper it has a lower absorption. But we have to tackle it because it is such a great space to be on working with copper materials. Then the structural characteristics, the relative density we are able to achieve is around 99%, and the static tensile properties are around 210 MPa to 300 MPa, and the electrical conductivity is around 80% to 90%, 95% on the selection of the alloys and at what temperature you are testing. So at a temperature like uh, room temperature, you will have a 95% electrical conductivity, but as you gradually increase, so at 600 degrees we have tested the alloy and it is around 75 to 80%. So it is good enough for a high temperature uh, application itself, for the electrical conductivity and the tensile properties. So these are like some of the post processing heat treatment requirements, because we should understand why heat treatment is required and why hot isostatic pressing is really common in additive manufacturing itself, because uh, the component produced out of additive manufacturing has really high thermal residual stresses, and it is involved with very high cooling rates. So there is a reduction in anisotropy, and precipitate hardening is also one of the requirement in some of the alloys, such as 17-4 pH, 15-4 pH, and maragin steel. So some kind of a microstructural changes are required for the enhancement of the properties of the material itself. Then also for support removal and the part detachment as a stress relieving exercise, we do it. Then hot isostatic pressing is mostly done to eliminate the micropores and the cracks. Then reduction in the anisotropy is also can be achieved through hot isostatic pressing, and it can also increase the ductility of the material itself. So how like to select different technologies in metal additive fusion. So I have made a list of almost 6 parameters, and I have listed 6 technologies. So you can select your technology according to the application required. So somewhere your cost will be a parameter, somewhere your design complexity will be the parameter, somewhere it will be on the material side, then on the equipment side and the build size itself. So you can select a technology according to the application, you can select a technology according to the material, you can select according to the costing of what you're looking for. So there are certain trade-offs in all the technologies, so you cannot say which you cannot compare an apple with an apple. So you have to compare an apple with a watermelon. So a watermelon has a different benefits to an apple, but an apple also has its own benefits itself. So you have to compare it according to your body needs actually. So you can take a call on something like that and move ahead with it. Um, then what kind of testings are required in development of these alloys? So when an incoming powder is coming at our facility, we test for flowability, chemical composition, the morphology, and the particle size distribution. And we also check for the moisture content, because any kind of moisture is bad news for any kind of processing requirements. Then after checking this, we try to print certain like small cubes where we check for the relative density of the coupons developed in a certain parameter. Then we work on the microstructural or any kind of crack formation and study of any kind of pores are there in during a 3D structure development of uh, of the coupons. Then if these two parameters are totally satisfied, then we move on to a mechanical testing. So mostly we work on room temperature tensile testings, elevated temperature tensile testings, hardness and fatigue and creep. So these are like some of the testings generally people work on. But there are certain requirements. Let's say if you are talking with ISRO, they'll have certain testing requirement on the cryogenic temperatures or an elevated temperature more than 1400 degrees. So in India currently those testing facilities are not available readily, so we have to supply them the samples, and they test those coupons and qualify it for their use itself. So it depends on the customer's requirement. It depends on how you want to process it. It depends on the material properties itself. So there are mix of things which you have to take care of and try to mix and match for your end use itself. Uh, so the criteria for any kind of new development is on, it should have a relative density very high. It should have a mechanical characteristics such as tensile, hardness, or fatigue or creep, matching or similar to the conventional or actually exceeding it. That is like the wish. It should have no cracks, because cracks are really bad news for any material, any components. And the thermal stress management should be really good. So you should be able to de-stress the part really soon, and you should not lose on the integrity of the component itself. So on the parameter development side, what are the certain parameters we work upon? One is the core, the center core areas, then the surfaces, the open surfaces where the contour parameters are developed, then the upskin, because there is a top layer and there's a bottom layer. So the top layer is called the upskin, the bottom layer is called the downskin. So you can see in this diagram how you actually name the layers, different layers. Then you also work on the support structure, because support structure not only is important for the integrity of the component itself, but it is also important for the thermal stress management. So that is a very crucial role, because otherwise you'll have certain burnt areas or non effective areas in AM. So these are like current challenges for any new material development, and it is a costly affair. So we should understand with the customer, with institutes like yours, because institutions in India, actually I've been a student in India, so and not very far in the past, I've graduated just a decade back. So but the main problem in the country is everybody's living in an island. So the industry lives in an island, the academics live in an island, and then the government body lives in an island. So there is no contact between the industries. But when I was studying in UK, there I saw the involvement of industry and academia, and academia and industry, which is very much required, and which actually brings the cost of any new development and any kind of further engagement really down. So we can take those key challenges in a new material development with a university partner. Currently we are partnered with University of Birmingham in UK and University of Warwick in UK. In India we really work closely with Indian Institute of Sciences, IIT Delhi, and IIT Kharagpur. So these are like the three premium institutes in the country we are working with currently, and two of the UK based, because I have a background with working with them. So that's how we have been doing these new material developments in the past 1 year, which has been like a crazy year for everyone. The pandemic has been a great problem. So as we had low amount of businesses during last April, May, June, July. So we started working on these new material development projects with our customers. We did a lot of webinars. We taught a lot of people. We talked to a lot of people, we explained and understood a lot of things. So that's how currently we have developed in past 1 year itself, we have developed more than 13 alloys in additive manufacturing, which has given us a greater push, greater niche in the market space itself, which has become like a white ocean for us, where we are the only companies in the country, or if for certain materials globally, we are the only companies who are able to process those materials. So that is something really great, and that is where the opportunities also lie. So you are all are researchers, so you should also think on those lines. So I just want to make you understand what are the challenges. The most important challenges is like it is an experimental study. It is a study of statistics. You have to spend a lot of time and money in understanding these things. The thermal condition may vary from part to part, so you have to have a generalized uh, uh, sigma distribution curve for all the parts, and you have to make sure that most of your components lie in the middle. Then most of the materials on the steel side, high carbon steel, which are like general steels, are susceptible for hot cracking. So you have to understand, and you have to dictate this back and forth with the researcher and back and forth with the customer also. Then some of the alloys have poor weldability, such as wrought aluminum alloys, such as AL6061, 7075, 2024. So you have to understand, and you have to do certain amount of tweaking. You have to understand from your end customers if those tweakings are okay with them. Then you have challenges of such as low absorption of laser, such as copper alloys, as we have discussed it previously itself. Then the homogeneity is an issue, because the powder is mixed several times, so the homogeneous nature of the powder may be lost. So we have to work on that. So the current open research domains, which I think you would be really interested in, is something working on a mechanical characterization matrix for all kind of available materials. Currently somebody like Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, they are doing an experiment of different alloys in different orientation and at a different position in the build itself, and they want to characterize it and make a plot and to understand what is the behavior change. So they have that amount of money to do those kind of experiments. But if it is done in a academic environment, it is an easier feat, and it is a great learning and academic project you can take up. Then an analytical solution for process parameter development, so that is very important, that rather than having an experimental study or making a design of experiment, you can have analytical solutions to these kind of problems. Then new material systems which can be developed are like ceramics. So ceramics is like a new kind of a field for additive manufacturing, which people can take up. Then metal matrix composites, the MMCs you can think of, like you have aluminum metal matrix composites, and such as like nickel and titanium you can think of. Then we are currently working on this shape memory alloys. So it's a nitinol alloy, which is 50% nickel and 50% titanium. Then also we are currently working with NML CSIR laboratory in Jamshedpur for developing new amorphous alloys for medical applications, for something like a tweezer or a forceps. So this is very important, what is pre and the post processing. So till now I have been able to cover what is objectifier, what is the industry, how to select a component, what is the material you should work on. Now we should work on like the process itself. So what people generally mistake additive manufacturing is that it is just this middle portion, that is just the 3D printing. But actually additive manufacturing is a complete project planning and processing management system. So printing is just like 20 to 30% of the complete activity process chain of it. So majority of it is the pre-processing of the data, and the post processing of the data. So a printer or a machine is as good as like a garbage in is a garbage out. So you should understand how to utilize the equipment right. You should understand what are the problems. You should be able to foresee the problems in the final component, not just printing it. So in the pre-processing, you have to allocate your 3 M's, which is very important, and which is costly affair for any kind of organization. One is the manpower time, then other thing is the material, which is direct money, which is again like you are feeding in money into the machine. And then the other M is the machine time itself, because you have paid so much money to procure that equipment and it should be used and utilized correctly. Then the easiest part is just the printing. So if you have done the pre-processing right, if you've done the post-processing right, then 3D printing is the easiest part of it. Um, Sorry, is somebody trying to speak?
Now you, sir, carry on. I have
Okay.
muted.
Okay. So the post processing is very important because that's where like you have to decide upon different kind of heat treatment, how to detach a component from the build platform, how to do the GD&T later on, such as like you have if you have to do CNC machining, wire cut, or an EDM process just to get the final design right. So you have to select the pre and the post side just to get the 3D printing right. So this is the prime motivation how to go forward in selection of a process itself. So on the pre-processing side, I think all are academics, so you understand there is a design stage where you design a component. Then you have a data preparation where you orient the component, choose the layer thickness, choose the support generation, then work on the build preparation and the label and the part traceability, because we produce components in millions. So we have to have a traceability portion of it. Then we also do a lot of process simulation just to avoid any kind of failures. We do a simulation beforehand itself just to predict the failure and take the corrective action. Then we slice the component and select the right parameters for development. So in the design stage, we can do part integration. So this is a TVS. If everybody must be knowing TVS. So we made the complete muffler, and actually or with TVS, it was a great project where we actually tried to reduce the weight of the muffler. And with every bike, because of us, TVS is saving 850 rupees per bike just because of this muffler project what we did. So you can understand if you are buying a bike for let's say 50,000 or 60,000, and because of additive manufacturing on the design and development still stage, you are able to reduce cost by 850 rupees. So it is good money for you. And you can also apply lattice structures in the part in the component itself. So currently people are using it, a lot of people are using it in the space application. There are certain rules for additive manufacturing, design for additive manufacturing. So there is a complete guide currently available on the internet which you can work upon. Then on the data preparation side, orientation of the component is very important. Then the support uh, generation, then the traceability. As you can see, we have to label the components with the customer. Some of the customer ask us the traceability for should be available with us for the next 10 years or 15 years. So those kind of data handling should be there within the organization. Then finally the data preparation for additive manufacturing. Then process simulation is very important, where we work on risk mitigation, on compensatory geometries, optimizing our production, and addition or deletion of any kind of supports in it. So the post processing is like, so all these photographs are from our own machines and equipment. So this is one of the largest impellers, closed impellers we did for one of the uh, no, Norwegian customer. So this was a 380 impeller which we built in laser powder bed metal additive, and it was done in stainless steel 316L material. So it got printed on the machine, then the wire cut, then the support removal, then the machining of the component, and then the final component is ready for the GD&T itself. So you can understand what are the key steps you should take care of. Then the GD&Ts and the overall quality reporting to the customers are really important, and it depends on what are the correct steps what you have taken during the project planning itself. So the design, the strategy, the virtual simulation, the in-process quality control, and the post-processing quality control are the most important aspect of in producing any of the components in metal additive manufacturing. So I think this is well known to you. A CAD is converted into an STL, which is a feeder in additive manufacturing. Then STL is converted into a slicer where you slice the layers, and you have a definite layer thickness of, let's say, 40 micron, whatever you choose, or 100 micron. Then those are translated into G codes, and it is on the machine itself. Then these are like the three most important steps: the part orientation, the slice and layer thickness, then the support structures. So the orientation of the part is a really important aspect. Then the layer thickness and the support. So it gives you the final uh, surface finish or the mechanical integrity of the components definition itself. So this is a great sheet from Purdue University. We use it at our end, and you should also download this sheet if you're doing any kind of uh, developmental or a design or a process change for any of your customers or any of your projects if you're taking in. So it is divided into 8 heads, and you can start giving points in each steps, such as complexity, functionality, material removal, unsupported features, thin features, stress concentration, tolerance, and geometric exactness. And according to your numbers given, there are like some weightage, and according to the score you will get, you can then think of redesign or consider redesign, or it is a direct success, or there is a likelihood of a success. So you can decide upon a component, and it is a good case by case study uh, for any kind of design for additive manufacturing level of engagement with your end user. So this is the conventional approach, where you take an STL, orient the part, generate the support, assign the parameters, then print, post-process, then do the GD&T. But currently, after starting to do simulation, we have saved a lot of money at our end when we started doing the simulation itself. So we simulate the stresses, we simulate the failures, and that's how we have been able to save a lot of money in doing so. So this is like the topology optimization and generative design. So how you should work upon these activities, how to select what activities to be done, which is currently available with a lot of freewares and a lot of softwares currently available. So this is one case study of a structural component in a e-bike itself, where we are able to reduce the weight by 65%. So it is a great reduction in an e-bike, where momentum is a key importance, and you lose on power as your weight increases. So that is a different mechanical engineering problem itself. So this is already a proven component. This is a qualified VTM bracket with ISRO, and it is in production with us. So this is the way we orient the part and check on the displacement before actually printing it, simulating it onto MSc Simifact. Then we select the orientation which has the least amount of deflection or deformation, and which has at least amount of support volume, and the building time should be optimum. And then we are producing these brackets, These were tested at Vikram Sarabhai Space Center and got qualified for production with us. And we have been producing them for the SSLV, the PSLV, the Gaganyaan. So all these utilize 4 of these in each of the launches. So how to select a component for pumping and a flow or a power? Yes.
Carry on, sir. Some participant
Oh,
unmuted.
okay, okay. So some pump impellers are, for example, some control and solenoid valves, some manifolds you can work on, some open impellers, the valve functionalities. So on the oil and gas and the power sector, we work on a lot of projects like these. Then on the gas and the steam turbine, as I've told you, on the blades, the stators, and you can see these holes in these blades itself, which are like conformal cooling holes, and which can only be produced through additive manufacturing. And this is something like of a great feature and a great case study for us also, where we are able to produce these in numbers for our end user. So how to compare the conventional supply chain to an additive supply chain? This is good enough for your life cycle assessment studies also, how your material to a final product stage and then the utilization stage is done in additive manufacturing and in any kind of conventional technology itself. So as I've told you about this great case, it is a great case study for us, where this was supposed to be operated at 900 degrees centigrade, and just due to these conformal cooling uh, uh, channels, you are able to avoid the plastic state of these blades during in service. So it is a great example of utilization of additive manufacturing. So these are like the toroidal air bottles, which we are producing it for the missile programs like Agni. And all. So these are the toroidal air bottles. Earlier they were made into 2 halves and then welded it on top of each other. But due to changes in the design itself, such as like changing some of the design areas, we are able to produce it in one single component. So flame tube I've already told you about. uh, so why people choose additive manufacturing in aerospace? Just to streamline the supply chain, boost their fuel economy, work on eliminating inventory stocks, reduction in elimination of subassemblies, weight reduction, and confirming with the features. So any 500 grams saved is almost like 3800 liters of fuel saved in the life cycle of the airplane or an aircraft itself. So it is a direct saving in weight to a dollar comparison. So people are really interested. These are like some of the components worldwide people are trying to use in the aeroplanes and the UAVs. So you can see, you can understand like what are these things and how people are trying to upgrade the utilization of additive manufacturing itself. These are some of the components currently in production with us. So not only this, we are producing a scraper for deep earth scraping exercises. We are doing impellers, a lot of impellers for oil and gas as a production, and we are able to qualify a lot of components for them. So how to take an example where die casting versus additive manufacturing is required. In this case, earlier it was produced in a die casting environment where a 3 million or a 5 million pieces are required. So, but currently, as we did a lot of work during the BS4 to BS6 transition, the customer needed to iterate it as fast as possible and needed some quick components. So additive manufacturing played a vital role. And if additive manufacturing was playing a vital role, Objectify also played that initial role with these customers. So we are proud to say that any of the engine development program coming from BS4 to BS6 in the country, we have been participant in that, be it Hero MotoCorp, TVS Motors, Royal Enfield, Bajaj Motors, Maruti Suzuki, Mahindra, and the Tatas. We have been working with all of these OEMs for their engine development program during the BS4 to BS6 conversion. Then you can also compare a block machining project to an additively manufactured project where if you take an example of a titanium component where you are actually machining out more than 90% of that expensive material, so you can avoid doing that, make it a near net shape and just machine the areas wherever it is needed. So it is a great example for production, and it is a great candidate for producing the component because it is cheaper to produce in additive manufacturing than compared to the machining side of the things. So currently we are doing project Atmat, so you can also participate in that, and where you can submit your design ideas, a business proposal of those ideas, and we will be giving certain awards, such as like we will be printing your component, we're printing your ideas, and we will also be giving you cash prizes for it. So I have some problem with my presentation. Sorry. Yes. So I'm just at the end. So these are like the judges. So Dr. Deepa Srinivasan, who is the chief engineer at Pratt & Whitney, Dr. Vaman Kulkarni, who is the ex-director of Honeywell Technology Solutions, Arpit Sahu, who is a brother and the co-founder of Objectify Technologies, and then Mr. Brigu Ahuja, who is the CTO of Objectify. So you can think of doing this as a this thing. These are our certain partners, such great names. So you, if you can see, and then thank you so much for attending the talk today. I think we have 8 good minutes for the Q&A.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your deep knowledge with us. Your session was full of valuable knowledge. Once again, on behalf of SR Engineering College, we wish you a very happy birthday. Now it's all open for the query session.
Yes.
So we can see here in the chat box, some of the participants have put up their questions. So starting with Dr. NP Vyavahare, sir, please suggest how the additive manufacturing will help in electronics IC PCB manufacturing, and how I will start from initial level. So, sir, could you please address this question?
So see, as a ideology, you can use additive manufacturing for layering the electrical lines for a PCB manufacturing, and also you can utilize additive manufacturing for the green boards manufacturing, where a lot of companies and a lot of research institutes are currently working upon, and you can utilize a lot of knowledge available currently on the internet for PCB manufacturing, and it is near future, but that technology is not commercially currently available. It is mostly in the academic stage, so it will take some good amount of 2 to 3 years to be commercially available. So you can keep an eye on that, and you can use it in the later stages of the technology adoption, say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question is from Jaydeep Viswakarma. Sir, can we print parts in SLM which have different densities at different location and microstructure?
So you can make parts at different layer thicknesses, but it should be at a different Z height. You cannot do it at the same Z height. But having said that, you have to actually understand the process of different densities in the different areas. So you have to save it at as different STLs and then merge it during the software side itself for that developmental exercise. So theoretically, yes, but it is subjective to what kind of design and what kind of materials you are trying to use. So that selection of the material and the design is very important there.
Okay, moving on to the next question, Mr. Prabhat Agnihotri. He's asking, sir, how 3D printing is used for career making.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Uh, he's asking how this 3D printing technology can be used in career making.
Career, like
Yeah.
people are doing a lot of great things. Like I'm a mechanical engineer, and it is in my career. It is my directly in my job. But this thing we have almost like a 90 plus P here working under me. So in career wise, you can think of new material development as a career. You can work as a CAD designer career or an electrical engineer, because a lot of components are on the electrical side of the things. Then you can also think of a business side of the things, where you can design business strategies for adoption of additive manufacturing on the supply chain side, on the utilization side. So there are different career possibilities. It depends on your motivation and your thought process, how you can take up this as a career itself. Yes.
Yeah, Sahu, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, super alloys is possible in metal.
Yes, sir.
Super alloys.
Yes, sir. So
So,
titanium and nickel superalloys, we have been doing it. Yes, sir.
okay, right. In India, like you, any industries are doing any part using the super alloy to print the part using
Yes,
super alloy?
sir. If you take example of ISRO and HAL and the DRDOs, nearest to you is the DRDL and the DMRL. So currently we are working on the scramjet hypersonic engines, and where alloys such as like niobium, we are working on a C103 for 1400 degrees centigrade temperature. So yes, we are working with different organization. It is just how they are utilizing it as a technology itself. Yes.
Oh, good, really. It's a very interesting, really, this area. So people may, future is there for some more years, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Totally, sir. It is a sunrising industry. It
Okay.
all depends on the individual, how he sees the this thing. If you are looking at a very quick, like a e-commerce kind of a growth, sorry, yeah, the technology and these things are not in for it. But if you want to have a sustainable growth in technology which is for a high value, it is one of the wonderful technology. So it also depends on like how your personal thoughts are, and do you want to earn money when you are young, or do you want to earn money when you have gray hair? So it it depends
Okay.
on those kind of thoughts.
Sure. Yeah, good area, really.
So
So we
Yeah.
have here a few more questions if you would like to answer, sir.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
Dr. NP Hare, I have designed my own 3D printer. Can you please suggest me a free software, or maybe he's asking for some open source software for CAD to make G codes?
Yes. So you can use Slicer, you can use Mimics, you can use Magix Minimal, you can use Open NetFab. So there are multiple free softwares currently available. So Slicer is one of the most used openware people are using it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Subhadeep Day is asking, sir, can we 3D print solar PV panel?
Yes, currently there are certain universities in UK and Germany who are currently working on this. Uh, it is possible, but the major problem there is like the efficiency of these. You can print it, but if it is not that efficient, then right now they are trying to work upon the efficiency quotient, and slowly it has been currently around, as far as I remember, it was 10 to 15% efficient. So they are trying to increase it and taking it further till 55 to 60% to be commercialized. So yes, in academic institutes, people are trying to do that, but it is currently on a very minuscule level to initiate with.
Okay, thank you, sir. This was a very informative and interesting session. So I would really like to thank you from my heart. And
Yeah.
people still have so many questions. I know with their curiosity, they can ask many questions. So I can say to the participants here, the email ID of sir is displayed on your screen. So you can further ask your questions to sir directly to his email ID. And that's all from this session, I guess. Pankaj sir,
Yeah.
do you want to add?
Srivastava.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Srivastava.
nothing. Excellent.
Yes.
It was excellent.
Now it's the time for the tea break. I request everyone
Yeah.
to have your refreshments and we will resume here at 12 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah. Sahu.
Yes, sir.
Sahu, thank you. Thank you very much from on behalf of the department and coordinators. Really, we are very much thank you because brief information is given about current applications in India and abroad.
Exactly.
And also, really, in spite of your busy schedule, thank you very much for giving us some
No,
time to
sir.
us.
Sir,
Uh,
it is my great pleasure to be part
Yeah.
of such a initiative,
Yeah.
and I really look forward for any kind of questions or any kind of collaborative work we can take in together.
Yes.
And this is just a start.
Yeah,
Excuse me, sir.
definitely, Sahu. We will touch with you continuously. So we require your support to strengthen the program also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
Excuse me,
you,
sir.
Ankit. Thank you.
Excuse me, Sahu, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, are there any printers available for the polymer manufacturing or polymer materials 3D printing
Yes,
in
yes, yes.
India?
Yes, we have. I showed you initially that we do a lot of nylon based, ABS based,
But there was a
polypropylene.
shortage for like APM P220. That type of advanced printers are not available. I think so.
APM 220. It
APM
is a material.
P220. It's like thermoplastic and carbon reinforced thermoplastic, like
So,
polyether.
so there are materials currently available on the carbon infused this thing, but in India generally, see it also for an industry, it should also make a commercial sense. So if it is a one-off requirement, it doesn't make any sense for any kind of investment into something like this. So everything is currently not available, but it can be available according to the business strategy or a business thought. But everything and everything if you keep on doing adding on, then you will not be only you will not be doing any business, right? So you have to keep a, so you should be able to cover the 95% of the market, and then you have to leave 5% of it. It is in material.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
sir, for the
Thank you,
guidance.
Ankit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, Pankaj sir, do we have any feedback form for this session for the
So just I will share the feedback link.
So, dear participants and delegates, we will be sharing one feedback form link in your chat box. So, please fill that feedback before leaving for this session. So, now I
Now I have
can.
shared the feedback form. So all of you just fill the Google form and complete it for the first session, today's session.
Yeah. Good. Pankaj is a good. Give the tea break, and after some time, then we will start the second session. I think.
Yes, sir. We will start again at
We will resume
12
again at
o'clock.
12 p.m., sir.
Yes.
12 p.m. Okay. Yeah, please. Right. Thank you.
So, this Google forum we will post in your WhatsApp group as well. So, dear participants, please fill that feedback form. And again, we will resume at 12 o'clock. So the next lecture is by Dr. A.R. Dikshit, Professor and Head, Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT ISM, Dhanbad. So shall we stop now, Pankaj sir?
Yes. Again, we will start at 12 p.m.
Yeah. So that feedback form will also be considered as the attendance for that Atal formalities, Atal platform formalities. So once again, I request all of you, please fill that form. Pankaj sir, please post that link in that WhatsApp group also.
A WhatsApp group also I have posted.
Okay, then that's fine.
So just we will close Zoom meeting again. We will start that time.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
That will be fine.
Thank you, participants. We will. Oh, thank you, Vyavahare sir. Now we will disconnect this meeting again. We will resume at 12 o'clock.